One of the biggest things that CK3 players asked for once the game released was a ruler designer. What was a very fun aspect of Crusader Kings II, the ruler designer allowed you to customize your character to your exact playstyle, or to simply have some very bizarre and goofy setups and have a bit of fun. While the ruler designer wasn't available on release, it's clearly been a priority as it is now up and running this week for all CK3 players. In this Paradox-sponsored video, I'll run you through the ropes of this amazingly complex beast and how you can create some disturbingly hilarious characters for your roleplay purposes, or maybe just some fun ones to spice up your CK3 campaigns. Let's dive in. First things first, to get into the ruler designer, it's pretty simple. You just need to start a new game and go to play as any ruler down at the bottom left side of the screen. Select the faction you want to play as and go to create your own ruler over on the right hand side of the screen, which will obviously bring you to the ruler designer. The main ruler designer screen pops up, and while you can 100% just go straight to appearance, we'll stick with this one for now. This screen will develop your character's background and personality. On the left side are your base choices, your sex and sexual orientation, your faith and culture, of which is defaulted to the character you've chosen, but can quite literally pick between every single faith and culture without affecting the character's appearance. This means I could in theory have a West African character under the Han Chinese culture that follows the Greco-Roman religion of Hellenism. While it might be outside the idea of realism, the ruler designer makes no basis to sticking to realism. Then, your character's name, dynasty, and realm. Your name can be whatever you choose to be, or randomly chosen from a combination between religion and culture. Your dynasty name and flag can be randomized as well, and no, there is no flag customizer within the ruler designer yet, although several tutorials exist to quickly upload your own as a mod. And lastly, your realm flag can be randomly selected too. The only bummer about this is that I can't rename my realm right off the bat. As an egotistical YouTuber, I'd want to have my realm named after me from the start. Outside of your appearance, the real meat and fun of your character is on the right side of the main screen, as it's here that you get to play a balancing game between age, traits, skills, and family. I say balancing game. Should you want to play with achievements turned on in CK3, you will have to keep your customization points no more than 400. This seems like a very simple task, but once we get into all that you use these points for, they add up quickly. If you ever want to see a points breakdown of your character while customizing, just hover over the number and it'll show you every line and what they are costing you. Beginning with age, you can start as any age in the ruler designer from 0 to 120. In terms of customization point costs, ages 0 to 28 cost you points, and a formula that I couldn't exactly nail down, just know that it does cost you points up to that age. From there on out, you're officially over the hill, as the saying goes, and the benefit is that you actually gain points back. Meaning the older your character is starting the game, the more points you have to wiggle around with. Personally, outside of role-playing purposes, I'd start at 17 years old, as that doesn't cost you the max amount of points for your age limit, and it allows you to have a single child, therefore guaranteeing you a successor, at least when you start the game. Age and weight are the first two factors in ruler designer that actually will affect your appearance. Obviously, as you age, there are some uncontrollable factors that both sexes have to deal with, and weight will affect your appearance and health in the game, so it's something to consider when building your character. Next up are your traits, and it's here that most of your points will be spent, and of course the greatest area where your personality will be developed. Education focuses on the 5 lifestyle focus areas, with each tier of focus costing you 20 more points than the last. In my opinion, your education focus shouldn't be too much of a focus for you. The biggest benefit is an increase in monthly lifestyle experience percentage, but it does cost you a lot of points when you could use them in other areas like boosting your own skills. As with any lifestyle focus, you can only have one education focus with this designer. Your personality and other traits are where it gets really fun and interactive. With both of these sets of traits, you have positive and negative ones. Positive traits will cost you points. Negative points will give you some back. You can have any number of these traits in combination with each other, making for some very interesting characters. This is another area where your appearances can be modified on this front page, as disease and physical attribute traits will always show up. There are only two real caveats to this part of Designer. I did lie a little bit when I said you can have any number of these traits in combination, as you cannot have opposite traits in a single person. For example, if you select the handsome trait, the ugly traits will be grayed out and not selectable for you. Second, any traits that you would only receive on completing a lifestyle branch do not actually complete that lifestyle branch in the game. If you select the strategist trait, for instance, you will still have to unlock every perk in that branch. This is beneficial in ways though, as you could start the game with traits in branches that you know your character will not get into during their lifetime, but are still great traits to have. And in all honesty, those traits are probably the ones most worth investing into for your character. Skills is our next to last main page section, and it's naturally dealing with the skill level of your character. When it comes to skills, there is a formula to point progression. Shout out to Italian Spartacus for sharing it with me. Your character will start at a base level of 5 with all skills, with the exception of your education trait, which at a minimum boosts one area to 7 points. Now, ideally, you'll have filled out your personality and other traits beforehand, giving you boosts in whatever area your traits are in, but if you want to start with skills first, here is the formula to consider. Leveling skill points up 1 to 4 levels cost 2 points, except prowess, which is 1. Leveling them up 5 to 8 levels, each costs 4 points, except prowess, which is 2. Leveling them up 9 to 12 levels is 7 points each, except prowess, which is 4. We see in a pattern here. Leveling them up to the 13 to 15 levels is 11 points each, except for prowess, which is 7. And then lastly, leveling them up to level 17 or above, each costs 17 points, except for prowess, which is 11. There is one pretty important thing about your skills and how its points are given out. Any skill levels awarded through your traits do not count towards the just mentioned formula. For instance, if my education gives me 8 intrigue, that is my 0 level base when I get to actually leveling up skills. With this in mind, I can get to skill level 12 intrigue using only 8 of my customization points instead of using 52 points to get there just leveling from 0 to 12. This is another way to gain some freedom in how you craft your character. The last part of the main page ruler designer is your family, which is split into married, sons, and daughters. Personally, I wouldn't start married, as there's zero guarantee that you will get a good wife or husband, and it's doubtful they'll be part of a strong family if so. I would rather be unmarried so I can find a good match once the game starts. However, I would definitely at least choose a son to begin the game with, as that will give me an heir to the throne should I die. It's not a bad idea to factor in a few kids maybe, so you can start the game strong with some good alliances. The number of children you can have is limited to your age, starting at 17 for both guys and gals. However, should you decide to start as a 120-year-old for whatever reason, it's possible to start the game with 104 children, all legitimized. Though I don't want to know just how someone was able to possibly birth that many humans in a lifetime, and I don't need to know. Again, something to mention, you do not have to stay within 400 points in this ruler designer. This is only limited to Iron Man runs for achievements. So you could have one seriously gruesome character that's a Herculean genius, spy master desert warrior that has sired dozens of children if you wanted. You just won't gain any achievements from that campaign. With the personality and background aspects of your ruler out of the way, it's now down to the appearances, and it's the more intricate and complex side to the ruler designer. This section is going to be rather brief, as there's not a ton of explanation to do, and it's more down to a fine-tuning system of just how detailed you want to be with your character. Your appearance starts with an ethnicity selection that just provides the base of your character. Clicking the ethnicity button will randomize all basic features, so if you don't like what you see, just click it again and a new guy or gal will show up. Clicking on Customize Appearance will bring you to the anatomy and hair customizations, and good lord, there are lots of options. Over 90 individual genes, over 7 anatomical groupings are in this designer to customize your own personal portrait, from height to cheek fat, nose width to inner shape of your ear. The slider bar represents the various factors such as the strength of these individual genes, with the right side being the stronger one, the left being weaker, or from having sliders such as making a straight nose versus a hawked one. The amount of fine detail sliders is a bit ridiculous, but allows for near infinite options to truly customize your character. So much so that the final part of the ruler designer seems pale in comparison. That final piece is your hair, both head hair and beard for men, or just head hair for women, although I think that should still be an option for women anyways. You're allowed any combination of hairstyles and color, with hair color limited to natural hair colors for now. For myself, I think a lot of the fine detail appearances get lost rather quickly inside the nuances of hairs and beards, but it's still nice to be able to pick and choose whatever I want to go with. Maybe one day there will be a hair dye DLC where we can get truly wacky with character creations and create some real monstrosities. Once you're finally done with creating your character, however long it has taken you, you can copy your DNA and share with your friends or even on the Steam page, or paste your DNA into any character you want on the campaign map. That means you could in theory customize every faction to a single character, and truly recreate the Clone Wars if your twisted fantasy mind so desires. The possibilities are truly endless. To wrap this up, the ruler designer in CK3 is a real treat that goes way beyond what CK2's designer ever could. The lack of a custom flag designer is a bit of a bummer, but it's quickly overshadowed by the ability to upload your own anyways, and all the rest of the bits and bobs and things that you can do to make your character just as you want. Plus, it's free to everyone, so no complaints from me at all. Thank you all for watching this video breaking down the ruler designer in CK3. I have no doubts that you'll have a blast creating your own characters, so let me know in the comments just what you have in mind. Just keep it civil and clean is all that I ask. Are there things you wish we could have in ruler designer? Slap those in the comments section as well, as I know Paradox would appreciate the feedback to make sure that the ruler designer stays one of the best features in this game. A big thanks again to Paradox for sponsoring this video. This is Havoc, and I will see you all in the next one.